Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody to the node.js Secrets Working Group meeting. This is the last meeting of November 2022. Before start, does anybody have an announcement? I don't think so. Oh, good. Okay, so following our workflow, we need to go first to the Node.js dependency vulnerability assessment issues. Check if is everything covered. We have two issues. Actually, we have three issues on npm. I think someone from Darcy did a quick update yesterday, right?
Yeah, he commented that on the manual one, I think that he was going to try and spin up a version 6 release.
Okay, so but this doesn't affect Node.js, right? Or we still don't know.
He didn't comment one way or the other, so I think we'll, we should assume. I guess we don't know. Like, we could look at it ourselves, but the answer was, hey, we'll get an update. And I think once that update's available, we should, do a release there public. So I don't think it needs to be like a private release or anything like that, but we should probably try and expedite a 14.x release.
Okay.
That CV, that one CV in particular, 22023517, we could float a patch if we wanted to on Node itself, in that it's like, it looked to me like it was, the CV is about a very specific update to that package to address these issues, and it's, I think, just that. So it'd probably be low risk for us to just say, let's update.
No,
but I'm still not sure if that's something, especially 14, it's a sort of longer, older LTS. It might be better for us to look at the actual thing and say, do we think it applies or not, or wait. I'm
okay. I think we can wait for his answer. I think they will do this work in the next coming weeks, I guess. And
yeah,
then
I think
we
it should be
update it
fairly
anyway.
soon.
Yeah.
If it's a week or so and then it's available, then we can talk to the releasers. Richard mentioned to me it's already kind of on his radar, so we can talk to him about when we can get a 14.x release out.
Yeah. Leveraging, we are discussing about Node.js dependency vulnerability assessment. I think we don't have an issue in our agenda about that, the work that Facundo is doing. So I would suggest to include it and perhaps get an update. What do you think?
Yep, sounds good. I think the only thing pending for now is the recursive check for vulnerabilities in dependencies. So checking in dependencies of dependencies. But yeah, I don't have any updates on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there was that, and then the other thing I wondered about was, can we add Node as like, I know it's not a dependency, but like, I think us querying to see if there's things we don't know about Node being reported would make some sense too.
Can that happen? Like, can a vulnerability be disclosed or created without anyone notifying Node?
Well, I think this,
Yeah.
like, this one was maybe not, maybe it shouldn't happen, but like, this one is one where they basically said it affects this package, which maybe, the recursive dependency might cover it, but they basically said it affects this package and affects Node, and they forgot to say npm. So the recursive thing might catch that, but I could imagine that maybe there's some other mistake that could be made where they just say, oh, we found this thing in some dependency and we're just going to tag Node with it. And I guess your question is, can they actually create a CVE? I suspect they could create, like in this case, they created a CVE which says there's a package and it affects Node, we could have one where like they make a mistake and, you know, the package isn't even used by Node, but they still do it, right? If you know what I mean, in which case we wouldn't catch it because it's not actually a dependency, but they've still tagged Node.
Yeah, so in this case, it's like the vulnerability was reported for that package in the context of like the Node platform.
Right. Yeah.
So,
But somebody, sorry, go ahead. Like somebody could say package X is vulnerable and it affects Node, and X might, you know, shouldn't happen, but like isn't even something in Node.
yeah. No, I get what you're saying, but yeah, it's still an open question. Like I can certainly add a query to the script that checks was there any new vulnerability reported for the platform node.js.
Right. I just
And
figure like that isn't hard, right?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't make things worse. It's like at the most we would have some noise, but yeah.
It's kind of like if it's easy to do, that's where I was just thinking, like the more we have the heads up versus somebody coming to us and saying, hey, what about this one that you don't know about, the better, is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Let's add an item there too, so that I can remember to add it on the next change.
I have created an issue about recursive support for Node.js dependencies on the Node.js dependency vulnerability assessment. But I don't know how can we include it to our agenda since it's a different repository. Do you know if that's possible, Michael?
Yeah, if you add the tag,
Okay.
the same tag, it'll pick it up from any of the repositories.
Okay, let me get it here. Security.
Yeah,
Agenda.
I'll create the issue on the repo for this one.
Okay. Security. Done. Thank you. All right.
Just looking at some of the others that are in there, the zlib one, I think you work to get zlib updated. Is it already landed?
It already land on main, but not
Okay.
in other active release lines. So that's the reason I didn't close in the other ones, just the main.
Yeah. It's just now got to work its way through. That's why I just want to understand. It's got to work its way through the releases, and then okay, great.
All right. Moving forward, the next item to the workflow is the permission model. Basically, no updates so far. Given the priority list I have from the OpenJS Foundation, the new features is not the highest one. So currently I'm fixing HackerOne reports and working on different tasks, but I will suggest in the next meeting to move it up, like increase the priority on that task, because I've spent much time on this and we need it to land. Like if I don't spend more time on it, probably it will be out of date pretty soon and I will need to do a lot of rework. All right, so the other one on the agenda, let me including to the minutes, is the issue 846, that is the Node.js Security Working Group Initiatives 2023. And basically, that's the one that I commented with everyone last meeting. It's about what do we want to do, what do we think that is good to do in the next as a next initiative from the Security Working Group. Basically, we had 4 initiatives and 3 from those 4 were concluded. Only the permission system is a work in progress, and then we can go through all the suggestion and make some agreements. Not today, but at least align expectations and perhaps do a vote. So the first one I suggested is basically the action that Facundo is working on is currently the work in progress, but was not considered Node.js security initiative right now. So just to formalize this, I think we all think that this is valuable for the entire ecosystem. The problem that we face nowadays is like the sleep is a clear problem, is a clear issue from that. The lib released a CVE, a security patch. Fortunately, it was not affecting Node.js, but to update the lib was a tough operation, really, really hard because or maintaining documents were not clear and it was not up to date. So one action that can easily update those dependencies is very helpful and certainly will help with OpenSSL. I did most of the OpenSSL updates in the past months, and I can say that that doesn't require a deep knowledge, but require time, and we need to fix that.
So yeah, small update on that. A couple of hours ago, I opened a PR for OpenSSL, so I can send a link. But yeah, basically it's a PR that adds a script and a GitHub action to update OpenSSL to the newest version.
Oh, can you drop the link here in the chat?
Yeah.
So we can include the tag and take a look.
I guess that ends up like actions give you the equivalent of like a Docker image or something where you have an environment that you can run that in, and so that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we just need to make sure that we will test everything before, because even having a workflow, things can change, and we normally update it frequently. Okay, I see you tagged me. I will include it to the security group agenda, but I think it will land before. Anyway, I including to my personal notes. Review. All right. The next one is basically a flag to emit a warning when vulnerable. I was looking to them when we perform a security release. I like to see how many people is adopting that new version, how many people is really using the latest version with the security patch, and surprisingly they don't. They really takes time to update even patch versions, not minor, even majors. And I would like to suggest a flag or anything that can make a clear visualization to the user that they need to update it. Like this binary they are using is vulnerable to that kind of CV. If you are using it, it's up to you. That's fine. You can just pass a flag to remove that warning. Okay. But I think it's we need at least to say, okay, to expose it that they are vulnerable, because most of developers does not use Twitter. They don't follow newsletter. They don't really look to updates. They just NVM and that's all. And I really believe that when they run the Node.js script, they might want to see some updates. For instance, when you install a package using npm in the end says, okay, a new version of npm is available. I'm not saying that we need to have that. I'm saying that a new security release is available. Please update. That's all.
I guess did you follow the whole discussion of the, like there was a suggestion of creating something that says, hey, there's a new version, and there was a long discussion, and there are some challenges, like certainly the lookup Like that, I think the only way you're going to know is if you do some sort of remote call, but do people want you doing a remote call? So it's probably worth going back and looking through that thing to see if you think any of those, like all the issues that people brought up, if this use case overcomes those or outweighs them or something, because I think you know it might get the same kind of concerns raised is kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason I think it should be behind the flag. When the user explicitly says, okay, I want to be notified, so they will pass the flag and they will know that, okay, it will perform a remote call. But yeah, if which issues are you saying?
Let's see, let me find it. GitHub Node. I think it's closed now, and it might have even been a pull request. Let me see if I can find it. Version. Actually, here, maybe author Blakey, is it? No, Blakey.
You can update the description when you find it.
Yeah, like I can maybe find it later and we can add it in. Just that I know there was like there's a whole discussion of like, well, is it valuable enough? And like the complications of like, okay, you got to do a remote check. What are you remote checking against? You know, I think some of the things is like in production where you care maybe the most, nobody's looking at the output, so they're not necessarily going to opt into it.
Yeah.
Would develop anyway. I think it's worth looking through that as what some of the concerns might be and to go from there.
Yeah, I think also maybe if we don't want to do like a new flag or just to have a separate version, maybe we can just have like an RSS or any other way so people can subscribe and get the typical notifications, so a new version has been patched or something like that, like a kind of a subscription, but without the need of storing the emails. And you have it, okay.
Yeah, we have a Google Groups, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's a Google Groups that we publish all the security releases, and that's we do say, hey, so if you're interested, that's where you could subscribe. We might do some more advocacy for that to say, hey, here's a way you can subscribe to know when there's new releases, because not necessarily everybody would necessarily know about that. We do include that in all of our, like, it's at the bottom of every release that says, hey, you can subscribe here, but
yeah. Maybe we can put it on the best practices and on the security MD document also to make some visualization, but
yeah.
So, I mean, one thing you might consider, Raphael, is we could generalize this one to basically, make it, this sort of says we could do this specifically, but maybe it could be like, we can think about the bigger problem of people not knowing when about updates and what can we do on that front, right? Because this, what you've got here is one suggestion, but then like, Ulysses just came up with a different suggestion, and maybe we can come up with, a third thing, which is really good. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, if we can like avoid remote calls, we can even talk to the package managers, like let's say just to the npm in the end of npm install, they can just give an advice. Okay, you are running outdated version of node.js. Please consider updating because it will fix that.
Right. Yeah, that's like quite interesting, because you're already doing something that requires remote connectivity. And I think
it's worth to discuss at least.
Yeah. Like, even it's interesting, like you could even think of like a wrapper. Anyway, like there's lots of interesting ideas like that if there was like an npm wrapper, I was thinking, that actually did the extra check for them if they didn't want to integrate it. But thinking about like, how do we make people make sure they're aware and help them come up to date. I think there's sort of two pieces. Like on the development workstation, that's one place where developers might get a notice and just update. I think production, it's like people aren't going to just immediately update. They usually have to do testing, and or they're already watching for CVEs, and they would be, you know, scanning and trigger it off of that. So, but yeah, no, that's an interesting one.
The next one, I will leave it as it because you mentioned it briefly in the next meeting, so we can take a decision. So the next one is enforce communication with Node.js dependencies. Basically, to sum up, is when we are, let's say, the last OpenSSL security release, it was hard for us because it was very close. We received a notification and then they released in 2 days, 3 days, a critical vulnerability. And usually when they release critical that affect Node.js, we need to perform a security release too. And the security process of Node.js is a tough operation, really tough actually. It is 42 steps and we need at least 4 releasers, and it takes time. And I don't know if that's possible, but I would like to have a different communication with our dependencies. Let's say if they know about a vulnerability, I would like, if they can, to send us an email telling, okay, that's the vulnerability before they sending it publicly, so we can assess it very in the early stages, and it will not require much time from Node.js. At least we will have a better time to do all the work. Well, that's my suggestion. I don't know if that's possible, if it ever happened, but I would like to have that kind of communication with the OpenSSL. Do you think that's possible, Michael?
I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's a good idea to go through all of our dependencies and say, is there any program we can sign up to be able to get that advance notice? I think even if that's like impossible for OpenSSL today, we did subscribe the TSC to the OpenSSL mailing list, which is equivalent to like the Google group you mentioned earlier, so that at least the TSC members get notified when there's a security release. But I think for each of the dependencies, we could think about like, and document and maybe even automate somewhere so it's more visible than just, you know, we get an email.
Yeah, I was thinking not only the notification that there is an upcoming release, we already have it. It's more about what was the change. Because
no, I understand. Yeah,
yeah,
I understand. We want to go to like, if we can get advance notice, it's even better. But I think that we don't even have, like, we can do better in terms of being on top of all of our dependencies and how do they announce their vulnerabilities, and how do we make sure that when they do announce them, we get notified. Because it was only like 3 months ago that we actually said, hey, let's just subscribe all the TSC members. It used to be like there was a few people in the project and they would like notice and make an issue. I think as a project, it would be good if we actually were very like organized. It's like, here's our dependencies. Here's how they tell people there's security releases, and here's what we do to make sure the project knows that that's happened and we take action, right? And I think your specific suggestion of like, and if it's possible, here's how we get pre-notified, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think like doing that for all of them and seeing how far we can get. But you know, if we could go to one place and see, yeah, here's all the dependencies, here's how we get those notifications, or not, like maybe they're ad hoc. And even like, should we think about automating some of that? Like, is there a way that says email gets sent, we receive that email, we create an issue in the security repo saying, OpenSSL is doing a security release, right? Like that.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can do it several ways. Like one of them, can be like create a private repository for every dependency, and then include one of the maintainers to that repository. So whenever a new secret release, or any patch is coming, they create an issue in that repository, or we can,
if they're willing to do that, right?
Yeah, like, exactly.
I'm not sure they all will, but I like this one in the sense of we can do better in terms of being like right on top of like, how do those dependencies give those updates, and even if it turns out we talk to all of them and they say, no, we're not going to give it to you in advance,
Yeah.
I think we can add some real value in this front in terms of, the project knowing when things happen and what the channel is and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Next one, security stats page. This is very simple, but I still think that this might be valuable for the community. When we create a blog post about our upcoming security release, we create it to our blog, we share it on Twitter, and that's all. People get notified that there is an upcoming release. But and during the security release, if something happened that, okay, we can't update today, something, or the machine is broke, we need to postpone to tomorrow. What we do is basically we update that blog post saying, okay, update the time and what's happened and why it was postponed. But it is not delivered to the community. Like, if they want, they can stay at the page and do a refresh every time. But I not expect they are doing that. I really think that would be great to have a secret stats page, or at least a Node.js stats page. Okay, so they can check if the upcoming secret release is going well, when it will finish, or at least what's the expectation for that. And well, this is very simple, but this is just a different manner they can get notified from security release. For instance, in that page, we can even receive emails, so they can subscribe for notifications of upcoming security release. Okay, it was postponed to tomorrow. They will get a notification about it.
But I think that like the emails we already have through our Google group, right? And we should be like, if there's a delay, we should post, in addition to updating the blog post, we should update we should send another email to the thread that says, sorry, been proposed, been. So I think we have a little bit of the notification, not saying that a page that provides some status wouldn't hurt, but I think
we can
the
integrate
email
both,
should be
right?
Covers the notification part.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can integrate both. Like, at least the Google Groups is not easily exposed to everyone. Like, it's very. I didn't know, most of developers don't know about it.
That's where I was like earlier. We can do a better job of saying, "Hey, here's like a page that says, here's the makes that email more visible." Definitely. Now, I assume that's in our security.md. If it's not, we should definitely update that. So I think your general suggestion of let's have some stuff with more information makes sense. In terms of the security process, release itself, I wouldn't want to make the releasers/steward have more. If we can come up with a way that is easier for them to update people, but I wouldn't want to make their job harder, too much harder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just I think we can integrate everything, but yeah, I think it will be a time-consuming task for a very little improvement in the end. So yeah, I concur. Let me remove that suggestion from the issue. Instead of removing, I will just do this. All right. Next one is from Dawson. Can you move?
Yeah, I just mentioned too, and Beth has said she's actually going to start working on them, but Explorer using SigStore to sign our releases. That's around. SigStore is like I guess it's like a standard. Today we use GPG to sign our keys, but there's been some challenges before in terms of where we store the keys. SigStore is like the sort of up and coming. So looking at how we sign our releases with SigStore, I think was what she was mentioning. The other one was there's a bunch of standards that people are looking at, like Salsa and other things, in terms of how you sort of rank in terms of how and I'm not the expert. She spent more time looking at it, like how well you're doing in terms of supply chain security standards. And they've got like level 1, level 2, level 3, and there's a few different ones. So looking at how the project does in terms of some of the key standards, she'd mentioned, it also makes a lot of sense to me. So I think she's more for visibility than to say, hey, this group needs to think or do anything. But like, these are some things in the space that she's going to be working on. And I think it'd be good to have them listed as like, here's the work that's going on the security front, and we can get, maybe Beth and the other people she's working on to give us an update on some interval, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some automation from Google, I guess, or other company rely on different storage for the keys. And I was recently included to the release along with Juan, and our keys were not propagated to the entire system, so it was complicating some repository. So I think that Sigstore might solve it.
The nice thing I like about it, and which I think they push as one of the advantages, is you don't even necessarily need to have keys. You can be authenticated through, like, if you trust the Google, I mean, we all use the Google single sign-on and stuff like that. And basically Sigstore can automatically generate keys that are tied to your email for you.
Okay, so you don't need to be attached to a single computer.
Yeah, like basically you just authenticate against your GitHub ID.
Oh,
and
that's
then
great.
it generates a certificate, like a short-term certificate that then says this certificate has your email in it. And so that they can, I think what would end up is we might list a set of emails for people instead of keys. And it might be easier. So, but I've looked just enough to kind of understand what's going on there. But I think Beth and
I think it is
So
will drive that.
To add a little bit more to it, I'm not really familiar with Sigstore, but I know that at Trail of Bits, we have a couple of people working very, like they're contributing to Sigstore itself for a long time now. So maybe I could invite one of them to the next security working group meeting, and so that we can ask and see if, like, what advantages we could use from them.
I think Beth is already, like, she's pulled in one of the initial contributors to Sigstore. So I think she's got kind of that that part of it, but maybe it makes sense to, I guess what I'm suggesting is maybe we could ask her to pull in the person she's talking to and come talk to here, versus like starting some separate thread, right? Since I know she's already working on it.
Yep, yeah, makes sense.
The other one is figure out how we stand in terms of key supply chain standards.
Yeah, that was the stuff I was mentioning around Salsa and stuff. And that's another one that she's been doing some work in another project. So she's going to look at that to push that forward in terms of like, what should we do to look at the node project, and how do we stand, and like, are we at level 1? Are we at level 4? Is there things we should do to move between the levels? But
that's a security related.
It's all supply chain security related.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like more related to the build itself. Like, I know that supply chain is a security related, but with our powers, I don't think that we are able to work in that.
I mean, I guess I mentioned it as it is in the security space, but like the build team where,
part of it, yeah.
Sorry, not build team, release team, like Beth is the perfect person to champion that as the, being in the release team. And
yeah, okay.
And we might need to pull in the build team and stuff like that. But I think it's like in terms of like the overall security for the project, it's still something to have in the, here's all the things that are going on. Doesn't mean that this, doesn't mean that this group is necessarily going to jump in and lead them or do anything specific, but
All right. OSSF scorecard.
yeah, that one was mentioned in terms of, I think the OSSF, I again, I haven't looked at it in detail, so I don't know, but like the OSSF has a security scorecard. Maybe that makes sense for us to look at that against what our project does. And then might give us some ideas of like, areas that we need to improve on or whatever.
But why it solves? I mean, I'm normally thinking about initiatives that will solve a particular problem. And for the OSSF, it's not clear to me how this fits to that role.
I think that, if we fail the OSSF security scorecard, that probably tells us that there's some problems we need to fix, right? So it's like an audit against best practices. And I think that's something that does make sense for us, is like, is the project following security best practices? And we can come up with some good ideas. Like, I think we're doing some good work in terms of like what's important based on what our brainstorm is in terms of what's important. But this is like an external, hopefully some good input into what some other people think is important. And we can, I think, looking at it to understand that and saying, yeah, we're doing well, or oh, wait a sec, here's something we didn't think of, right?
Got it. Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, it seems very actionable also. So like it. Yeah.
The next one I added in was fuzzing. Since we're brainstorming, I just threw in everything in terms of priorities and whatever. But this is another one that's been mentioned. Again, it's along the lines of being proactive. So not fixing a specific problem, but saying, let's start to go look for problems. And fuzzing is one way that some projects do that. They basically fuzz their APIs, and it may help you find vulnerabilities before somebody else does. I'm not really an expert, or I don't know too much, haven't looked at it, but it's again, like if we're brainstorming, that might be something to consider in terms of, if we did fuzzing, we'd probably be more secure. How much more secure, I don't know. Effort versus reward value, how I'd prioritize it, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting to have it on the list at least.
Vladimir, I remember that Vladimir opened an issue in the past in the security WG about phishing.
Yeah,
I think.
definitely. Like, it's been brought up before and discussed, and it comes to effort, right? Like, do we have enough effort? If we had nothing else to do, then this would be something we could do to improve our security stance. Whether it'll come up to the top of our list this time or not is, I don't know, but interesting to have on the list.
Yeah, let me see the resolution of that issue. There is a Google out first.
I think as I remember, it just ran, like there was nobody who really pushed it forward, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Comes down to how much effort, how much time people have, and
Okay, so does anyone have any an experience with fuzzing? Like, is it really solving things, or is more like a long CI that we need to wait, something that people don't care?
Yeah. I think I would put it, like, personally, I would put it further down the list than a bunch of the other stuff, right? Like, I think it can add, it probably could add some value, but like looking at the OSSF security scorecard seems like I would put higher, because maybe it'll point out something more important to us, right?
Yeah.
But if we were running out of things to do,
yeah, I really
I
think, yes, I think that we have, honestly, I was considering to have three to 4 new initiatives, not more than it, because I don't think that we can handle. At least it's better. So probably it will be skipped for this first. So I will hide it, the comment, just to not, instead of hiding, I will just include the same ID in the mind. So okay. Oh my God.
And I added one at the end, which is quite related to some of the other ones we talked about, is
Okay.
like the earlier one, Facundo is working on automating our updates, right? Which is good. And a related issue though is like some of the tools we use to do those updates. I'm not sure we're like 100% on top of their versioning. And so this comes back to like the repeatability of building the same thing, and also like security related. If we just pull in the latest version of something, you know, are we comfortable that it's the right thing? And like, so making sure that the tools we use are well understood in addition to the dependencies in themselves, if you know what I mean. Like they're kind of like dependencies of the dependencies. But without them, you can't rebuild the dependency in some cases.
Yeah, so it's a good point. It's confusing because at this point in time, like these tools are mostly scripts which do a couple of command line commands. So yeah, I don't know if it would be worth it to. We could certainly add versioning to them, and then whenever an update gets done by those tools, we could include in the commit something like that says, oh, OpenSSL was updated using this version of this script. And then we would have some kind of reproducibility.
I'm a little less worried if the scripts are like in our repos, but like I know, so for example, for some of the WASM that's generated, it basically like downloads a version of, you know, WASI toolkit or WASI SDK or something, and then uses that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, then that's we should probably be doing better than that. Do you know if does it download it from like the official repo or website?
I think it does. Like, you know, so I don't know that there's a problem, but I think that's one where just like the dependencies, it would be good for us to have gone through those and say, yeah, we're comfortable with what they're doing, or maybe we should, like, instead of downloading at runtime, maybe we should like vendor invert the version we're using, or I think it's worth thinking about. You know, similarly, I think some of the other ones do an npm install. You know, are we comfortable that, you know, the next time we run that, we'll get the same thing? So my suggestion was just to like, again, go through the dependencies, and for each of those say, are we comfortable with the tooling that's being used and how it's pulled and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
You know, it's probably a step after what you're currently doing, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, no, but it's true. But yeah, usually you want, if you're downloading something, you want first to download it from the official website or source, then have some kind of checksum verification, so that you can say, okay, we're downloading what we actually want to download. But yeah, for things like if anything runs npm install, that's another kind of worms, right? Then reproducibility becomes a bit harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could definitely, another choice is we could create a Docker image. Like, let's say, okay, we're going to create a Docker image that it's ready to, that has all the requirements needed in order to update a dependency. And then we just refer to that Docker image. So we run npm install once, and that gets saved in that Docker image. And then we can just, update it if necessary. But if not, we have something.
And we could store that
consistent
Docker image somewhere, or
indeed.
Yeah, I don't know all the answers, but I think that's an area where we can probably improve in terms of the security / supply chain side of things.
Yeah, and another point related to it, when you mentioned before, like if it's always the best option to download the latest version of things, related to that, also for dependencies, I see that for a lot of them, we currently update them by just vendoring in the latest master or main branch from upstream.
Yep.
Unless there's a very good reason to do that, we should probably stick to released versions because those are usually more stable.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Like if you're for finding that, then definitely that's something we should probably try and change too.
yeah, and it also reduces confusion when you have to update. You don't know which version exactly you have in Node because it's a random commit from master.
All right. Just to okay, this one is about the last comment you did to the thread, right?
Yeah. So that's covered by that. Yeah, that's what I was just bringing up.
So these would be included in the Facundo task, in the Facundo issue, or doesn't
I
matter.
think
Like,
they're kind of like a next step, and
is another
could
task?
even it's a different thing. Like, you know, Facundo is working on a very specific initiative which says like let's automate these so that they're not manually being built, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a different task to say, okay, now let's look at what we're actually building, and are we doing it in a way, and like are the tools that are pulled in, are they built in a way that we think is, you know, the best from a
Okay.
security perspective?
I think this correlate with the OSSF scorecard, because probably in some place in that scorecard you'll say, oh, are you building your dependence correctly? And then it will be correlated, right?
It quite possibly.
Yeah, another way of looking at it is we want to go through all dependencies and try to increase reproducibility on the way we update them, and also reduce risk of supply chain attacks. Those are like the two measures we could pay attention to.
Okay.
So I think it's something that doesn't need to, like, it could be a parallel effort if you had unlimited resources to what Facundo is doing, because one is really just saying automate exactly what we have. The next one is like improve the process, right? It's independent on whether you run it manually or whether it's automated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I would like to have some elaboration or some description on that issue, if you can, like later, just for the
Yeah.
next meeting. If someone appears, and we don't need to explain the whole thing.
Yeah, I can expand on that versus just the one line.
Yeah.
Sure.
Other than that, if you have any other suggestions, please include to that issue. We will review it in the next meeting. And I think we can keep following that approach, go through all the comments, see if that still makes sense. Otherwise, we do the same as I did in my first comment for the secret stats page, just underline. I will include why I did it in the minutes if someone is interested. And well, I think more 2 or 3, at least more 2 working group meetings, we can agree, or we can have at least 2 or 3 initiatives for 2023. And then we end the year with very good plans. And that's awesome. Yeah.
I'll throw in one more idea just since we're chatting about it.
Sure.
I definitely would put this myself below the focus on the dependencies, because I think that's I can see we got 2 or 3 things that would be a really nice focus for next year, but I'll say it anyway. Is several times it's been suggested, like there's companies, and I don't know if Facundo probably trail the bits, but like there's people who have offered to do security audits. And I've always been that doesn't help us if we don't have people who can actually action, and fix the problems that we have. Now that we have, Facundo and Raphael, who've got time and resources to help, that might be something to consider, right? Like, like I said, I would put it below. I think getting through our dependency side of things would make a lot of sense to me, because like that's tangible work. But if we had extra cycles, and if Raphael and Facundo was like, hey, we're still looking for things to do, that audit at some point, would make sense. If we've got the people who then say, I know what the audit told me, let's go fix things, right?
Yeah. Michael, are you planning those audits to cover also, side things like, I don't know, Jenkins or the website, or, infrastructure things that we have ongoing, things like that, or just focus on Node.js itself?
I think it could be all of those. The key thing in my mind, why I've always not been like, yeah, let's do it, is like, we want to make sure we've got people who can then action whatever comes out of it. And I think the work of this group and the support we've been getting through the OSSF has helped us make some good progress in all these different areas. And actually thinking about it more, like a bunch of these things like the supply chain security, looking at the OSS security scorecard, they're probably all things that we should do first, because they're going to hopefully let us patch things. But just wanted to throw that in there as like, I think that's something that we should think about, that at some point will make sense, in terms of the resources and priorities that we have.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the audit make total sense. But I mean, I still think that it's hard, at least considering the scope of the Node.js internals.
I think like at this point, I would say I'm happy to leave it off the list, because I think the list is pretty good here. But like, if Raphael, you were saying, hey, I've got more time, like what else should we do?
Yeah.
Just that's something to think about in terms of, but I would kind of like, unless you're saying, hey, wait a sec, we don't have enough on the list. My take would be, yeah, we've got enough other things that I'd prioritize higher and are probably good to do before we do that. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the other thing that I would suggest is here. Okay, if you have any idea to that issue, to the thread, please share, regardless of if you think that's top priority or not. The priority we will build in the way that we select the initiative. So don't worry about it. And yes, that's it. I don't have much else to share. I will probably update the minutes and also the issue with everything that we covered here, so we don't need to go through everything again. And that's it. Also, just side note, threat model was merged this week, so good news for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for everybody's work on it. I think it'll be, I totally expect we're going to get questions and people will be confused, but I think having something there is great, that we can then answer those questions and figure out. And so
yeah, we just need to find a way to see if that's visible, if a security research is really looking to it, if they are seeing it. But I think we can measure it by looking to HackerOne reports. If we get more non-applicable or informative, that will be a good answer.
I don't know if you can look in HackerOne and see, like, when you go to report something against Node, it would be nice if it actually said, hey, if you're reporting something, here's our security model. Like, here's the link to the security model. Please take a look to see if you think it fits that or not.
But if I remember correctly, there's a mention to the security.md that includes the threat model. So I think that would be cool.
Okay, good. Yeah, then I think if that's already there, then like you said, just seeing what we get.
Yes. Okay. So I will close the meeting. thank you everybody for the participation. See
Thanks.
you in 2 weeks if that's not a holiday. I don't think so.
I will be away in 2 weeks, but
Okay.
I'll see you the time after. Yeah, I'm off on holiday for that.
Okay. Okay, so see you in 2023, Michael.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, because I guess after that, then yeah, it's getting right into December. So okay,
Yeah.
probably I'm sure I'll see you in GitHub and other places, but maybe not at this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.